Garrett.
And I'm Daniel.
And this is Modern Gaze. Today, we have Melbourne legendary drag performance icon Bathsheba here. Known for her high fashion looks and captivating performances, you may have seen her live across Australia, headlining many LGBTQIA+ music festivals, art museum openings, and at her packed weekly residencies at the Pride of Art Footscray, Puff Duff, and Osborne Sundays, just to name a few. Welcome to Modern Gaze.
Thank you for having me.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you two doing?
Oh, fresh. Have our coffee. Already did our berries workout.
Yes,
we're ready.
I've seen you there.
I mean, I saw you last week and I was like dripping wet and you're like sitting there fresh. And I'm like, please do not look
Well,
at me.
you didn't know where I'd been prior, so maybe I wasn't that fresh.
Well, where did you
So
go,
we'll say.
darling?
No, that's for after the show, we'll say.
So maybe we should just do like a quick fire challenge. We're just going to ask you some really quick questions. And
Feel
it's
free
up
to
here.
elaborate or like just be short, whatever you want.
All right. So have you ever been asked out on a date as a drag queen?
Yes.
And did you show up?
I didn't go. It was also on Instagram and the person didn't look quite right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
What's your star sign?
Sagittarius.
Who is your favorite designer?
Ooh, Iris Van Herpen.
Favorite artist at the moment that is on repeat?
Björk.
If you could do anything else in the world, what would it be?
Ooh, porn.
OnlyFans?
No, like Sean Cody, like studio.
Sean Cody.
Studio only, yeah, high quality, good lighting.
Have you ever had a crush on another drag queen?
No. Why do you sound surprised?
I don't know, just because I feel like...
Oh, wait, yes, I do, but I don't want to name names.
Fair.
They live in Sydney.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a good
This
question.
is a serious question.
Okay.
Can you walk that fucking duck?
No.
Okay.
Quack, quack. Come on. Who would your Snatch Game character be on RuPaul's Drag Race?
Betty Davis. Margaret Pomeranz. Gwyneth Paltrow, but someone's done that.
Not well.
Not well.
If they haven't done it well, don't do it again.
Or Belle Gibson. You remember like
Who's Belle Gibson?
She was that fraud, like the whole pantry thing. She lied about having a terminal illness and she cured it with lentils.
Yes.
She couldn't answer any questions straight. They're like, how old are you, Belle? She's like, I was raised to believe that I'm currently about 24.
I feel like RuPaul would come up to you and be like, maybe another one.
Well, I listed 3 before that.
Fair.
So, yeah.
Fair.
Okay, so last question. This is Fuck, Marry, Kill. Okay, we have Freddie Mercury, Bjork,
Yeah.
Lil Nas X.
Marry Björk. Fuck Little Nas X. And I guess kill Freddie Mercury because he's already there.
Okay, fair. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the culmination of our quickfire challenge. So let's just jump right into it. I mean, your name, where does it come from? Like, what's the story?
So it comes from a couple of places. One is the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, she's a figure in the Old Testament. But the primary source is the witch from The Conjuring. So Bathsheba Sherman was a real person. She was a witch who was executed in the Salem witch trials and she killed children. Something about that just resonates with me.
Republicans will love that.
Yeah. And I just like the phonics of it, how it sounds. It sounds like a little bit of like a rock person, like Marilyn Manson or that kind of thing. So I don't know, I stuck with that. Yeah.
I love it.
I had some alternatives that I decided not to have, but I've always got some up for grabs. If you want some, I've got some new ones.
All right.
We actually were going to ask you, Daniel's a dancer.
Yeah.
If he can find a wig, it's a good show. Just for a minute, hot minute.
Well, I have a wig and I actually have a drag name that my mother has given me.
Okay, what was that?
Her name is Paris.
But it needs work. It's just, that's it.
Her name is Paris.
We just have Paris for now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's kind of inspired by my mom because my mom is this like glamorous,
Over the
top, European woman. So like I put the wig on, I put my mom's like glasses on, the designer glasses and the Louis Vuitton bag. And I'm just like, yes, this is Paris.
There is an iconic drag queen in Melbourne called Paris already.
There is.
Yeah.
She's older, right?
Yeah. I think she was the very first drag queen.
I've danced with Paris at the Greyhound back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was in those performances.
I miss those days. I have to
Paris,
say.
like Millie Minogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, you've been doing drag longer than me.
Babe, I was a part of the evolution of drag. In my underwear in the back corner in the Greyhound.
There you go, bring it back.
I know.
I'm looking for backup dancers always.
Let's do it.
But do you have a drag name? Maybe I can christen you.
Please.
All right, I've got Princess Slayer.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
Amy Adams Apple.
Okay.
I don't think I have my Adam's apple isn't prominent enough, unfortunately.
Wow. Raquel Felch.
Ooh, Felch.
Yeah. Julianne Hoare.
Oh,
Ooh, I
There's
like
them
that
all. I know
one.
you love films. So.
I do like that one.
Yeah.
I think I would probably want to be that kind of like classic starlet Hollywood glamour vibe. That would be my look, I think.
Yeah.
those are good names.
There you go. Up for grabs.
Can we sell them?
No,
Like
well, you
domain
can buy
names?
them from me. And
Buy
if
them
you
for
choose
you.
to sell them on, then that's fine. That's capitalism.
That's amazing.
That's the kind of drag queen I am.
Well, one of the things I read about Bathsheba, the biblical character, some king or some guy was obsessed with her and like lusted after her. Like, is a part of your personality to be lusted after? Is it supposed to be sensual and sexual?
I think so. I think it's a dichotomy between being sexy and scary. I think somewhere in the middle is Bathsheba. Yeah.
I think you do a really good job at that because, like,
Thank you.
I feel like the sexy is kind of like in your costumes and in like your makeup and in like your aesthetic, and then like the scariness can like sometimes be in like
Come
the
to the
drama,
performance,
of your
yeah.
performance. You know, like the intensity.
One of the reasons I chose Bathsheba Sherman as a reference is because me as a drag queen is somewhat of a villain, but a misunderstood villain. So I think that's the point of something like Maleficent, where if you like peel off the layers, you see the real person. Or Wicked as well.
Right.
That's like a spin on it. Like there's no such thing as a villain. It's all your point of view of it. Yeah.
Drag is a huge part of our lives. We're not, performing in drag, but we really idolize and look up to you and people like you and doing what you're doing within the art form.
Well, I think with drag, the audience is just as integral as the performers as well. Like we don't exist without the support and we don't exist without the crowd. So I would consider you both a part of the community.
For sure. Thank you.
Yes.
We know what your shows are like, and we've been to them, and we've actually had you at our Bucks as well.
Yes.
We did, which was a lot of fun.
It was. That was
Back
a
in
very
the
fun
day.
day.
It was like such a great experience. Like so many of our friends had the most incredible time, but you were also supposed to be supported by a few other
Yeah.
Queens who
people-
shall not be named.
who
Right.
shall not be named, but you carried it, and you carried it like you were as if you were 3 or 4 performers in one. And it was like so impressive to see. Like, what is a show? Like, what can you expect when you come to see a Bathsheba show and performance?
I like to think that I go over the top and extra and give them a little bit of oomph. Because I think drag in every way is quite exaggerated. So we've got to overcompensate for the fact that we're not singing. Like, as try as I hard, I'm not Ariana Grande.
Do you sing while you're lip syncing?
Sometimes sounds will come out.
Okay.
Involuntarily, and I'll hear myself.
Why don't you give us a taste of what these sounds sound like?
Oh God! So let's say the song is like "Into You," like "I'm into you." It's just like
Yes.
it's horrible. It's horrible. That means the speakers aren't loud enough.
No, we love that.
It happened not long ago. I was at an outdoor event and the speakers were way too low, and I could hear my heels clacking on the
Clunking.
stage, and I could hear my own sort of whispering. It was very unnerving.
Well, I think they say like, as you're lip syncing, it's best to sing the lyrics, right? Because it looks more authentic and it looks more genuine.
There was one time when I was living with my ex-partner, I had headphones in and I was practicing a lip sync, and then he came into the other room. He's like, what was that unnerving sound?
Oh no!
So I would have been like,
Maybe that's that's the scary conjuring witchy part, right? You're like,
yeah.
Maybe
There was a Ouija board.
Maybe you were like literally like Bathsheba in another life.
Yeah, like, I mean, not no, maybe.
You have lots of intense performances, and you have a lot of variety and complexity and like in some of the characters you choose to bring to the stage. How do you choose those looks, and how does that affect the performance you're going to do?
I think the way that I approach everything is quite intuitive. I don't think about it too much, and often it makes sense after the fact. I was mentioning before we started recording, about once a year I'll refresh. And that's purely for my own boredom. And I think just to give the audience something new as well. So it's like a snake shedding its skin once a year. And I don't think about it too much. It's just whatever I'm influenced by, whatever I'm like reading or whatever I'm watching or whatever music I'm listening to, and it just presents itself. And then it's just very obvious and very abrupt. And yeah,
cool.
I think I'm in that phase right now.
Yeah.
I'm moving into a new aesthetic.
I feel like your aesthetics are like constantly evolving and just like getting more over the top. Like, especially since you were at our Bucks in like that stunning, I think it was like a pink
bodysuit.
Pink
bodysuit.
Flourish, custom
And you said that was a
flourishes.
new suit as well, right? So
I think I got that like the day before.
yeah, I remember
Yeah.
because I think we were organizing and you're like, I'm on my way to a fitting. And I was like, okay, we can't wait to see this look.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like you're constantly like evolving and like getting more and more, you know?
I think you have to be. And to reference your own podcast, your Eras podcast,
Yeah.
I think it's an integral part of growth as an artist, regardless whether it's drag or if you're a painter or a singer. But I do consider it like, usually female pop stars will have an era and they'll have like a reinvention, and it's just a way to sort of reconvey who you are. And as long as the thread is still you and it feels organic, then I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Speaking of eras, what is your current era?
Well, the era that's sort of like ending and going into the new one. Do you want a spoiler?
Yeah.
All right. So I think the era of like the Lee Bowery high fashion thing is sort of moving into more of like a Glamorama, Angelina Jolie supervillain sort of thing. I'm thinking like a lot of blacks, a lot of reds, a lot of rhinestones.
We saw you this past weekend at the Osborne. You had this really glamazon, high slit cut look that was very Hollywood glamour, you know, and especially the way that you had your hair styled. Is that kind of a little bit of a teaser into that movement?
Yeah, I think that's a teaser. And I just thought of your drag name, Rita Horworth.
Ooh,
Yes.
yes, I love that.
That is good.
There you go.
Wow.
I can already see the curls in my hair. Yes,
Yeah.
I'll borrow that wig.
There you go.
Girl. And he says, I'm going to be in drag first. I think we've got a...
Yeah.
we've got a
You know,
problem.
you snooze, you lose. You've been talking about it, but
Too long.
right under your nose, it's
I
happening.
don't know for too long, I think.
Yeah.
What was your very first experience like in drag? Talk to us about that.
So I was probably like 2
Okay.
when I started drag, but when I started sort of performing as Bathsheba, I was at DT's, which for those listening is a pub in Richmond. And I think all the elements were there, but it was just super unpolished. This would have been like 7 years ago.
Wow.
And I made this headpiece out of some sticks. And I was going for a sort of Hedy Lamarr thing. And the track started and I couldn't get through the door.
Oh, no.
So it was horrible. I was like, can someone help?
I'm stuck.
Yeah. And it was to Euphoria by Lorraine.
That's a great song.
And I remember having this out-of-body experience, and I faced the back of the wall, and I was like trembling because like everything had gone wrong. And yeah, that was the very first Bathsheba performance.
If you had to kind of look at your very early performances, like, do you feel like you exponentially got better? Or do you think it took time?
Well, I studied performing arts at uni, and I've always been a performer, but I think it's performing in drag is a very unique style of performance because it incorporates like dance, it incorporates like lip sync, and you got to have a little bit as well. It can't just be that. At least I like to have a little bit of a twist in the performance where it's sort of a little bit more burlesque in a way.
Yes.
So I think that just develops over time and you read a room well. I think the fatal flaw of any baby queen is that they're so stuck to an idea. Like, this is my vision, I'm going to do this, and it's going to be whatever.
Right.
And they'll turn up and it'll flop because they haven't read the room very well.
I mean, we've been to a couple of baby drag performances and yeah, I think you can see them so nervous and they're like, not like you said, they're not looking at the room or they're not reading the room because I think the nerves sometimes get the better of them, you know?
I think it's that. And I think they go in with the intention of whatever they want to communicate thematically and they don't realize that we're already on their side. So that would be my advice, is to just sort of be more authentic in what you want to do. Yeah.
That's fair. That's great advice.
The growth in your career and performing in so many venues and so many festivals now, do you feel like your stage is getting more interesting? How do you look at your space you're taking up as a performer.
Yeah, I think as the projects get more sexy and exciting, that really changes how the performance works out. I have a really fond memory of Pitch Festival this year, where I had the privilege of wearing an outfit by Jack Irving, and it's the inflatable stuff, and he's worked with Lady Gaga and Doja Cat, and so I was really privileged to be able to wear that. And to be in that space, which I wouldn't ordinarily be in as a drag performer, at like a trance festival in that outfit. In doing that, you're communicating to people and performing in front of an audience that may not know drag. And if that's their experience of it, seeing it on that level in that amazing outfit, I think that's a good sort of acquaintance to the medium for people like that. Sure. So, yeah.
The performances across Pitch and from something in front of, hundreds and thousands of people to a tightly packed, crowded club. What's like the most memorable experience that you've had that always kind of stayed with you?
Seeing someone being fisted in the front row.
Get out.
No. So I'm going to assume this wasn't at Pitch Festival.
No.
I mean, you never know.
This was at Homoerotica, which is a satellite night, so they do it occasionally. And I was doing Girlfriend by Avril Lavigne. And there was like fisting going on right in the front row, and I was very distracted.
Were they laying down?
Someone was on all fours.
Okay. So obviously this was not part of the performance.
No.
Were you distracted by the performance?
Yes, immensely. And I kind of like referred to it in the performance. Like it's camp.
Were you turned on?
No.
I mean, I don't know. Like I couldn't even imagine seeing a fisting situation.
Yeah, I'd never seen it in real life.
Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, and that boat was being held up by something.
It was levitating, that's for sure.
It was anchored. Girl. Maybe that's not the worst thing that's ever happened, but something that's like not the tea, like something that you were not cool with. Did you ever show up to a gig and be like, no, this is not happening?
I think anyone sort of intruding on the space is annoying.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it happen in a long time.
Okay,
but yeah, that's the number one no-no. And I always wonder what they think. How do they think that's going to work out for them?
I don't know.
At that point, a few of the cocktails made that decision for them.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is still
People
no
getting so
excuse.
shit-faced.
No, but they're not thinking.
Yeah, they're not thinking. Have you ever felt disrespected in drag?
No, not really.
Okay, good.
Yeah, everyone's been super respectful. Particularly now, it's like I think people have a reverence around like costumes and stuff, and people understand what drag is a lot more now. So no, I think everyone's been pretty fine to me. Like I've heard horror stories from other people who've been like groped and what have you, but I've been very fortunate to not have that.
I have a lot of friends that I grew up with that are drag queens in Los Angeles, and they have also moved to other parts of the country either after COVID, and they started building up their community from their hometowns, and they've also faced just a different reaction to like what people would expect from like West Hollywood or New York. Do you feel like there are any kind of communities here in Australia, or do you think anything like what's happening there could potentially happen here? And is that on your radar at all?
For sure. I think the right wing in Australia usually parrots whatever is happening in the States anyway. I have a friend that's been trolled, my good friend Sam T, because she was booked to do a drag story time, and she's had a terrible backlash. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's definitely a thing. Even you see the protests. There were anti-trans a few weeks ago on Parliament steps. So I think the tone has changed a little bit, and it's so abrupt. I remember after World Pride, I felt pretty invincible. And we're in the month of April now. This was in the month of March. There's been quite an abrupt tonal shift. But it seems to be centered around drag story time here in Australia, which is quite odd. I watched the video that Trixie Mattel sort of went into this.
Love Trixie Mattel.
Yes, same. And she said the drag is so diverse and not every drag performer is for anyone, and that's with anything.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would be an appropriate choice for drag story time, and that's just this is not my brand. So I think there's a misunderstanding from that segment of society about what drag is, and I think they don't know the difference between what trans and what drag is, and I don't think it's specific to them either. Like if we went to the supermarket now and surveyed like 50 people, I feel like they might not know either. But that's fine, but they're not out to antagonize or stop anyone or say vile things or spread myths and all that, and it's quite wild to me. Also, the glaring fact is that most drag queens don't really like children. So I'm not sure where this myth comes from, but also they're targeting the wrong people. With Sam as an example, she was booked to do that event. So if they have any query, you can sort of defer that back to the organizers because it's
And it was
their
booked,
event.
it was sold out. It was like really well celebrated. A lot of people who booked are still really excited.
Also, like she said, if you don't want to come, don't come.
Yeah.
Like, just don't come
Why
and
are they
support the
obsessed
event.
with exposing themselves to drag if they don't like it?
Right.
It's just wild
It's just
to me.
fear, I think.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting thing because I think that obviously people are most fearful about what they don't know about.
Yeah.
And in some weird way, there's this connection or interest that where they are kind of intrigued. Like they
I
kind
think
of
so
they
as
want to know a
well.
little bit more. A lot of people don't know how to manage their own internal struggles with their own identity. But I think
Love
that
and hate running quite a close course.
interesting. Maybe if we talked about that a little bit more, it would help some of these people either come to terms with who they are or come to find some kind of acceptance and love for themselves.
Yeah, I guess it's that stereotype about how the most homophobic people really have that sort of curiosity going on. Yeah. Or is that just us wanting to soften it?
Maybe
and
it
like
is.
not admitting there are people who are just genuinely disgusting
Correct.
and hateful.
There are definitely people who are disgusting and hateful.
Yeah.
Well, on the other side of that, and like on the spectrum of support, and even kind of talking about getting started in the industry and supporting baby drag events, how supportive do you think drag queens are to one another here in Melbourne?
Melbourne is definitely less dramatic than Sydney. I think we're generally pretty supportive of new talent. And it's like with anything, if you've got a good attitude and if you've got a fresh point of view, I think people are relatively open to give you a spot.
Okay.
I'm very interested in new talent. I'm very encouraging and fostering of that. I think the older queens, like maybe in generations prior where it was a lot, the clubs were fewer, the opportunities were less. Maybe they were a little bit more protective of the gigs that they had. But I think generally people are pretty open to new talent. Like I'm always very interested in what's going on.
And it keeps you like innovating and like establishing yourself, right?
For where you're going in your career, what are the things that you really want to kind of focus in on more?
The last year I've really thoroughly enjoyed being involved with NGV. I would love to put my big toe into the arts world as well and see where the grey area between the club and the art scene is. I was lucky enough to go to the NGV Gala, which was very fun. It was the Alexander McQueen opening, so that was like pretty amazing. They had great performances there.
Wow.
And so that was the third time I was in Vogue.
Casually,
But yeah, that kind of stuff is pretty exciting as well.
Wow.
And I think drag is being taken quite seriously now, and it's being seen as a sophisticated art form where it does have space in those places as well.
sure.
It's not just the DTs or shouting about $5 fireball shots, which I love too.
Correct.
But that's just drag is crass, I think. But so was a lot of other art forms, and
Yeah.
I think it's purposeful, and
Exactly.
would love to work more in that space.
If you look at the 60s and 70s and like the Andy Warhols, like these powerhouses in art, were surrounded by all these really iconic personalities and people and performers. People just resonated so much, and it was such an exciting time. And I feel like that's kind of coming back in a way, especially like around art.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, particularly with Warhol, because the drag queens that people like the most have a very individual personality, and that's what they resonate with. Like, it's very clear. I like a drag queen, you can sort of do a caricature of them and you know who it is. And it's the same with pop stars as well. If you went to a Halloween party dressed as Rita Ora, you have to be explaining who you are all night.
Correct.
So I think
Poor Rita.
Poor Rita.
you
So
knew
sweet.
exactly what I meant there.
Yeah.
Compared to Britney Spears, where you'd be in red latex and you have like the
like
microphone
people
with
know like
blonde
what
hair.
that is.
Yeah.
You know, if you go as Lady Gaga, people know what that is.
Correct.
You know, I think it's the same with drag, and I think it makes it more personal. I think in doing that, you really do connect more with the crowd as well.
When we watch a lot of queens, they like to talk about how there's like multiple coming out stories. Like you come out as gay, then you come out as a drag queen, and then you're coming out on social media. What has your coming out story been? What has your experience been?
Well, like I said earlier, I sort of started dressing up when I was like 2. So I don't think it was a surprise to anyone.
Okay.
So I don't really remember any kind of emphatic, this is me sort of moment. It's because it's always been that way. So I haven't really had that experience or narrative. It's always been sort of like organic for me.
That's nice.
What a boring answer.
No, but it's a truthful answer.
Yeah.
And-
yeah. I'll make up something. Yeah.
No, it's good because it's like so many people's experiences are so different, and it's actually something that is a really beautiful thing where people just want to be able to exist and be their truthful, authentic selves and not feel like they have to explain it to anybody.
Yeah, I guess this is why I find any sort of pushback quite jarring, because I feel like I've always been quite supported and everything's just felt very natural. I'm very like surprised when people have weird opinions about that. So that's why we sort of like project onto them being, oh, they must be secretly attracted to a drag queen, or they must secretly be gay, because it's a harder pill to swallow to think, no, they're just like
Shitty.
cunts.
Let's go back to that first question about were you ever asked out on a date in drag, and you said yes and didn't show up. Spill the tea.
No, I elaborated. I said that it was on Instagram.
That's right.
And the person didn't look quite right.
Okay.
So I decided not to. There's a term known in the drag world called a loon. They're people who are just sort of have a fetish, shall we say, for drag queens.
Right.
An older drag queen in Melbourne, who I think is quite iconic, Daytona, she was telling me a story about how some drag queens used to stand outside the Peel and play this game called Corners. And if you got picked up, you won corners. And one drag queen was picked up and she wasn't seen for 3 days. And she got back, I don't want to talk about it. So yeah.
Okay.
Bring that back. That could be quite fun.
Corners at the Pill?
Corners, yeah.
I think even inside the Pill is corners. I think the Pill is just corners
Cornered.
at every
Yeah.
corner of the room.
Yeah.
That's cornered.
Your persona as Josh and Bathsheba being another part of your personality or another persona that you have. How do you navigate the two?
I think it's fairly easy now. I think when you start drag, you've got a real idea of a delineation, like, oh, this is Bathsheba here and this is Josh here, and then it eventually just sort of merges. And the grey area is a lot wider now. So I'll ask you this.
Yes.
Okay, so I feel that I'm the exact same in or out of drag. I think my voice is the same. I think I behave the same. But people say that I don't. And I think it might be how they're perceiving me. So I'll ask you, am I any different in or out of drag?
Definitely not.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I would say that you maybe have a perception of being more powerful because you're towering over us when you're wearing heels.
True.
And you have the height with the wig. And I think there is this kind of persona that you have where people might be slightly more intimidated, and maybe that's why they feel a bit different.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, wow, like you're in a bit of awe. There's like all the glamour, there's the makeup and the hair and the look. And it's really...
Especially if they know you out of drag.
Right.
I think for us, we didn't really see you much out of drag until today, and we're at Barry's.
Right.
So I feel like
Yeah.
our first couple experiences was seeing you as, Bathsheba. So I don't know. I feel like you're just the same down-to-earth, lovely person.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
this is kind of trump what I was just about to say. Like, so I feel like the transformation is quite drastic. People don't know what I look like.
You're like this butch queen,
Well, I don't know about that.
you know?
Well, if you
What do they call it on RuPaul?
Trade.
You're the trade of the season.
At World of Wonder.
At World of Wonder.
They need a storyline, I'm sure.
So what season of RuPaul's Drag Race will you be on?
Well, not this one.
Next.
Yeah.
I thought we had the scoop.
We did have a good question actually that came through when we asked the Q&A yesterday.
Oh,
Actually.
yeah. I was curious.
And one was, if you were to compete against any queen on RuPaul's Drag Race in a lip sync for your life, who would it be?
Well, I would want someone like really bad, like so I would win.
Okay.
Right. So Charlie Hides.
Okay.
But I can't answer that for Melbourne, can I? But I'll answer who I would not want to verse in a lip
Yes.
sync, which is Max Drag Queen.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of projects do you have coming up? What's coming up for
So I do
Bathsheba?
Wednesdays bingo at Moondog in Abbotsford. Saturdays I'm either at Puff Duff or Pride of Our Footscray. And on Sundays I'm always at the Osborne.
Amazing.
Yes. I'm looking forward to going to more NGV things.
Yes.
Looking forward to doing more festivals. There was
Yes.
a lot of fun. I love going on little tours. Actually, I'm going on a little tour in a few weeks. I'm going to Sydney for Pop Chops.
Amazing.
So that should be fun.
We love Pop Chops.
Pop Chops
Yes.
is awesome. Love Andy. He actually
Also DJ'd our bucks.
DJ'd our bucks.
Thanks to
Yeah.
you. I still remember you at our bucks going up to those topless waiters and smacking their hard asses.
Did I?
Yes. That was so
no,
funny.
did I?
I think it was when you were doing Break Free, Ariana Grande.
Oh, I was a little too broken free.
Oh, yeah. I think you got broke free after that performance, let me tell you.
I don't remember one of them was like really dumb, but like stunning.
Yeah, he was like eating almonds.
The one with the tattoos, the one I thought was hotter. I said like, oh, do you want a drink? He's like, oh, I can't. If I drink one more time, I'm going to go to jail.
Jail?
I was like, okay. Yeah, he didn't explain anything beyond that. But
We all better run out of that room then. How did he get booked?
oh, God.
No
yeah.
background check. You have supported a lot of young performers. What kind of advice would you give to, a baby drag?
I think it's like with anything. I think it takes courage to look inwards and find something uncomfortable and then put that forward. And I feel like everyone has that within us. And I would just advise people to just be authentic to what they like and be quite literal. Like, this is the thing that I like. This is what I'm doing. And not try to copy any other drag queen as well. Because there are a lot of sheeps in the drag community. And I think the best way to do it is we're all just a combination of references and unique interests. And I think if you're just very literal to what you like, then I think people respond to that. And I think people can sense that you're having fun. If you're having fun, the audience is having fun.
Great advice.
That would be my simple advice.
Who would you say is an up-and-coming rising star drag queen in Melbourne?
I really like Eliza a lot. Yeah, she's been around a couple of years now, but I would say her star is definitely ascending. She's the one I did a cosplay of last week at the Osborne.
Yeah, we met her at the Osborne.
Yeah.
She was so lovely.
Yeah, she's definitely one of my favorites for sure. There was a groundswell really of new talent after the 2021 lockdown. There was a lot of, I really like Xena Ghost. They're really good. It's not hard to find good drag in Melbourne.
Melbourne to Sydney? What do
Yeah.
you think? What's the difference?
They don't like fashion. They like big hair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're all awful.
Yeah.
I know they're like into each other. Like the drama is just like.
There's way more drama, you were saying.
I feel like in Melbourne, just people, we don't suffer fools. Where in Sydney, it's a lot more like LA. You can kind of get away with things that you can't get away with here.
Where people like just reading each other more, or they're a bit more aggressive with one
I
another?
think they're more aggressive, yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of my way,
Well,
bitch.
you watch season 3. That's all I'm going to say.
Girl.
Yeah.
Tongue pop.